Welcome. Before we dive into this unbelievable story, tell me where you're watching from and make sure to subscribe, because we've spent countless hours uncovering the real events behind this shocking tale. This is the story of twins whose forbidden marriage stunned a nation, allowed them to create their own dynasty, and left a legacy that people are still talking about today. The twins were born in a small, remote town in the early 1880s, to parents who were already considered eccentric by the local community. From the very beginning, their lives were marked by unusual circumstances. They were identical in every feature, so alike that even experienced midwives often had trouble distinguishing them at birth. Their parents, noticing the rare bond between them from infancy, encouraged their closeness in ways that went beyond typical sibling affection. They shared everything: toys, clothes, and later, school lessons, and their connection seemed almost intuitive. They would anticipate each other's needs before a word was spoken, and townspeople often commented that it was as if they shared a single mind. As they grew older, the twins' similarities became even more pronounced. Their physical appearances mirrored each other so perfectly that strangers had to rely on tiny distinguishing marks to tell them apart. But it wasn't just their looks. Their personalities were deeply intertwined as well. They laughed at the same things, cried at the same tragedies, and even shared the same peculiar interests in literature, art, and local politics. Their upbringing, while unconventional, was heavily insulated from external influences. Their parents were strict, protective, and controlling, limiting contact with other children and adults in the community. As a result, the twins relied almost exclusively on each other for emotional support, companionship, and guidance. Education for the twins was conducted at home, and the lessons were often tailored to reinforce their unique bond. Tutors and governesses were brought in from nearby towns, but the children always resisted forming relationships with outsiders. They preferred to debate, study, and explore together, creating a microcosm where they were the center of their own world. By their teenage years, the twins had developed a rhythm of life that few outside their family could comprehend. They walked, ate, studied, and even slept in patterns that mirrored each other so closely that the household often seemed like a choreographed performance. The small community around them watched this unusual upbringing with a mixture of fascination and unease. Gossip spread quickly, though nothing openly scandalous occurred in these early years. Adults in the town speculated about how their close relationship might shape their future, but the twins themselves were unaware of any societal judgments. To them, the world outside their home was secondary. Their reality was built entirely around each other. Every decision, every dream, and every fear was shared. It was in this insulated environment that the seeds of their extraordinary, controversial future were planted. By the time they reached young adulthood, it was clear that the twins' bond went far beyond that of ordinary siblings. They were inseparable, almost symbiotic, in thought and action. The town had grown accustomed to seeing them together, finishing each other's sentences, and moving as though guided by a single consciousness. While outsiders might have seen their closeness as unusual, to the twins, it was entirely natural, a continuation of a lifelong pattern nurtured by an upbringing that left no room for separation. It was this unique upbringing, a combination of intense parental control, social isolation, and mutual dependence, that laid the foundation for the controversial decisions they would later make. The environment in which they were raised allowed them to form an understanding of love, loyalty, and partnership that was entirely self-contained. They were not influenced by societal norms in the conventional sense. Their moral and emotional compass was defined by their shared experiences and mirrored reflections of each other. This upbringing would eventually prepare them to challenge the very fabric of societal expectation, creating a path that led to both fascination and scandal. Ultimately, the twins' early life was a careful, if unconventional, construction of intimacy and interdependence. Their shared childhood, molded by protective parents and an isolated environment, allowed them to develop a bond so intense that it would define the rest of their lives. The combination of identical appearance, mirrored behavior, and deep emotional reliance created a foundation for a story that would shock their contemporaries and intrigue historians for generations to come. Their upbringing was not just the beginning of their lives, it was the blueprint for a destiny that would blur the lines between family, love, and power in ways few could have imagined. As the twins transitioned from adolescence into young adulthood, the nature of their bond began to take on dimensions that went far beyond the usual closeness of siblings. Having spent nearly every moment of their lives together, they had developed a sense of intimacy and emotional dependency that was almost total. They could anticipate each other's thoughts, moods, and needs with uncanny precision. Every decision, every plan, and every dream was shared between them. While society around them considered normal courtships and marriages with others, the twins existed in a world of their own making, one in which they were each other's confidant, companion, and constant. The intensity of their connection eventually evolved into something far more controversial. Romantic love. It began subtly. Small gestures, once innocent, started to carry emotional weight. Shared glances lasted longer than usual. The touch of hands became more intentional. Letters they exchanged in secret, once meant to communicate everyday thoughts, began to express a depth of feeling that went beyond sibling affection. They confided fears, hopes, and desires to each other in ways that they did not to anyone else. Their relationship, already unique in its intimacy, began to assume a romantic intensity that, in other circumstances, would have been considered scandalous. But for the twins, raised in near total isolation and with no external influence shaping their understanding of love or propriety, it felt natural. Their devotion to each other was complete, unquestioned, and absolute. When the topic of marriage arose, it was not with outsiders but between themselves. They were acutely aware of societal norms, but those expectations seemed irrelevant within the microcosm they had created. In their minds, no one could understand the depth of their connection, and no one could replicate it. The idea of marrying each other, while unthinkable to the broader society, seemed to them a logical extension of a lifetime of unity. It was a decision born not of rebellion alone, but of a belief that their bond was singular, sacred, and inseparable. They imagined a life together in which they would share everything: power, responsibility, and legacy, just as they had shared their childhood. The announcement of their union shocked the small town and surrounding areas. Whispers began even before formal arrangements were made, and when news of their marriage became public in 1903, it became a matter of fascination, horror, and intense scrutiny. The societal reaction was mixed. Some were intrigued by the audacity of their decision, while others were outraged, considering it immoral and unnatural. Legal authorities and religious leaders debated the legitimacy of such a union, but in the private sphere, the twins moved forward with a determination that left little room for dissent. They were resolute, believing that their unique upbringing and lifelong closeness justified their choice in ways that outsiders could never comprehend. Despite the scandal, the twins displayed a remarkable composure and strategic awareness. They used their unusual story to carve out influence in the community. While most people recoiled, others were drawn to their charisma and apparent unity. Their marriage was not merely an emotional arrangement. It was a calculated step toward consolidating their position in society, creating a family structure over which they would have absolute control. This strategic vision highlighted the combination of emotional intensity and practical intelligence that had been nurtured in them from childhood, an upbringing that encouraged mutual dependence and reinforced shared goals. Over time, the twins' marriage became a symbol of both fascination and fear. To outsiders, it challenged every social, religious, and moral convention of the early 20th century. To the twins themselves, it was a continuation of a lifetime of shared experiences and mutual devotion. Every public appearance, every private decision, and every exercise of authority within their growing domain was filtered through the lens of their intimate partnership. Their marriage was not just a personal bond, it was the foundation of a dynasty they would soon control, and it was a deliberate act of asserting their unity against a world that had always tried to define them as separate. The transformation of their relationship from sibling closeness to romantic partnership was gradual yet inexorable. It was a process shaped by their extraordinary upbringing, social isolation, and mutual dependence, and it ultimately led to a decision that would define their legacy. The union of the twins was not merely shocking in its violation of societal norms. It was the culmination of a lifetime of intertwined lives, a testament to the intensity of their shared existence, and the first step in creating the dynasty they would come to rule. Their marriage was a bold assertion of their singular connection, one that would leave the world questioning morality, loyalty, and the limits of human attachment for generations to come. The announcement of the twins' marriage in 1903 sent shockwaves through their community, and the reaction was immediate, intense, and deeply polarized. In a society governed by rigid moral codes and traditional family structures, the idea of siblings marrying each other was almost unimaginable, and it sparked outrage among townspeople, clergy, and local officials alike. The gossip began almost instantly, spreading from neighbor to neighbor, eventually reaching surrounding counties. People whispered in markets, at church gatherings, and on the streets, debating whether the union was a sin, a scandal, or something so bizarre it could not even exist in reality. Some considered it a clear violation of both religious law and social norms, while others were fascinated by the audacity and uniqueness of the twins' choice. Legal authorities quickly became involved as well, unsure of how to categorize such a marriage within the framework of early 20th century law. The local registry office initially hesitated to record the marriage, citing concerns about legality and the potential for community backlash. Clergy members were divided. Some refused to officiate or bless the union under any circumstance, calling it an abomination, while others argued that since both parties were consenting adults, it was not within their moral or spiritual authority to intervene. The controversy grew so heated that the twins' situation became the subject of letters, editorials, and heated debates in local newspapers, some portraying them as defiant pioneers challenging societal constraints, others condemning them as immoral and unnatural. Despite the public outrage, the twins themselves remained remarkably composed. Their upbringing, which had fostered a deep reliance on each other and a sense of unity, allowed them to navigate this social storm with a level of confidence and poise that few could match. They ignored the criticism of neighbors and detractors, focusing instead on their shared life and future plans. In many ways, their marriage became a declaration of independence, a statement that their bond, forged over a lifetime, could not be dictated by societal norms or legal conventions. They were determined to define their relationship on their own terms, a mindset that would ultimately play a crucial role in the dynasty they sought to build. Religious leaders who opposed the marriage attempted to sway public opinion further, using sermons and public statements to condemn the union. Some townspeople, fearful of divine retribution or scandal, joined in, pressuring the twins to abandon their plans. Yet, within their private world, the twins were undeterred. Their connection, rooted in decades of shared experience, mutual understanding, and emotional interdependence, was impervious to outside judgment. The social and legal challenges only reinforced their commitment to each other, convincing them that their unity was a force stronger than the condemnation of others. The controversy also attracted attention beyond the local community. Journalists, curious travelers, and even distant relatives arrived to witness the phenomenon for themselves. The twins were often subjected to questioning, scrutiny, and judgment from people who had never known them personally, yet their demeanor remained steady. They answered questions with precision and calm, never revealing doubt or hesitation. In a sense, the public reaction only elevated their status, transforming them from a local oddity into a symbol of defiance against societal convention. Their story became a cautionary tale, a topic of conversation in neighboring towns, and a subject of fascination for anyone interested in human psychology, morality, or unusual social phenomena. The reaction to their marriage also highlighted the limits of societal control over personal relationships. While community pressure, legal scrutiny, and religious condemnation sought to influence their choices, the twins' lifelong bond and shared upbringing had instilled in them a sense of invulnerability to external opinion. Their union, controversial as it was, demonstrated the extraordinary power of human attachment and the ways in which upbringing, environment, and emotional interdependence can shape decisions that defy convention. It was not merely a shocking marriage. It was a statement about autonomy, loyalty, and the refusal to be constrained by the expectations of others. In the years following the announcement, the twins' marriage remained a point of intense discussion, yet they continued to navigate life together, undeterred by public opinion. Their ability to remain composed, strategic, and united in the face of such overwhelming criticism laid the groundwork for the dynasty they would go on to establish. In many ways, the societal outrage they faced became an unintentional ally, solidifying their image as a couple whose bond was unbreakable and whose life choices were entirely their own. Ultimately, the reaction to the twins' marriage serves as a lens through which to understand the cultural, legal, and religious frameworks of the time. It shows how rigid social norms were challenged by an extraordinary human bond, and how the courage to defy convention can both horrify and captivate a community. The marriage was not just a personal decision, it was a social event, a public controversy, and a turning point that defined their lives and paved the way for the creation of their self-governed dynasty, setting the stage for both admiration and scandal in equal measure. After solidifying their union, the twins turned their attention to creating a realm entirely under their control, a self-governed dynasty that would reflect their unique vision and consolidate their influence. Unlike typical families of the time, whose power and legacy were largely tied to inheritance or social connections, the twins relied on their singular bond and combined intelligence to establish authority over those around them. Their upbringing, defined by mutual dependence, strategic thinking, and an almost telepathic understanding of each other's intentions, provided the perfect foundation for this endeavor. They approached the task with methodical precision, turning what many saw as scandal into an opportunity for power and influence. The first step in building their dynasty was securing a physical base of operations. They acquired property that had previously been neglected or underutilized, transforming it into a center of their household and influence. Within its walls, they exercised complete control, overseeing every aspect of domestic life, labor, and governance. Every decision, from the allocation of resources to the management of servants and tenants, was made jointly, reflecting the perfect synchronicity of their partnership. Outsiders quickly learned that the twins operated as a single unit, making negotiation or dispute nearly impossible unless both were satisfied. Their presence commanded attention, and their reputation grew even stronger as they demonstrated competence, decisiveness, and unity in matters both mundane and significant. The twins' dynasty extended beyond the physical realm. They cultivated relationships with key figures in the community, neighbors, merchants, and local officials, using a combination of charm, intelligence, and subtle intimidation. While some resisted their influence, others were drawn to the charisma and certainty that the twins exuded. Over time, the siblings positioned themselves as arbiters of local affairs, using their unique connection to ensure decisions aligned with their interests. In doing so, they created a power structure that revolved entirely around their combined authority, leaving little room for dissent or interference. Part of the twins' success lay in their ability to enforce loyalty and manage perception. Those who worked within their household or interacted with their dynasty were carefully observed and guided, ensuring that every action supported the twins' broader objectives. Rewards and consequences were administered with precision. Compliance brought favor, while opposition was met with subtle but unmistakable warnings. The twins' unusual partnership made them unpredictable in the eyes of outsiders. They were both entirely united in thought, yet capable of acting with a decisiveness that few could anticipate. This unpredictability enhanced their mystique and reinforced their control over the local population. The establishment of their dynasty also involved creating social rituals and symbols that reinforced their unique authority. The twins maintained strict protocols for appearances, interactions, and ceremonies within their household, ensuring that their public and private personas conveyed unity, power, and exclusivity. Visitors were often struck by the seamless coordination between them, from gestures and speech to shared expressions and synchronized movements, which made the twins appear almost supernaturally connected. This cultivated image not only reinforced loyalty among their followers, but also deterred potential challengers, as the twins' cohesion seemed unassailable. As their control solidified, the twins began to expand their influence into economic and social domains beyond their immediate property. They invested in local enterprises, built alliances with neighboring families, and carefully monitored the ambitions of those around them. Their strategic acumen, coupled with their intimate knowledge of each other's thoughts and plans, allowed them to anticipate challenges and respond in ways that maximized their advantage. Over time, their dynasty became more than just a household or estate. It became a symbol of their capacity to redefine power structures, blending familial devotion with political and social influence. Despite the outward appearance of strength and cohesion, the twins faced continuous challenges from external critics, legal authorities, and social rivals who resented or feared their unusual marriage and consolidation of power. Yet their decades of shared experience, mutual trust, and deep understanding of human behavior enabled them to weather these pressures. They navigated obstacles with remarkable foresight, using each challenge to reinforce their authority and demonstrate the inseparability of their partnership. In effect, every opposition became an opportunity to strengthen the dynasty and assert the legitimacy of their unconventional union. Ultimately, the creation of their self-governed dynasty was a direct extension of their unique upbringing, life-long closeness, and strategic intelligence. What began as an extraordinary sibling bond had evolved into a fully realized system of governance, influence, and legacy, one that operated according to the twins' own rules and reinforced their singular connection. Through careful planning, social manipulation, and unwavering unity, they established a dynasty that defied conventional morality, challenged societal norms, and left a lasting impression on the historical record. Their rule was not just about wealth or territory. It was a manifestation of their extraordinary partnership, a living testament to the power of human connection when nurtured, disciplined, and elevated to its highest expression. The twins' dynasty, while impressive in its organization and control, was not without challenges, controversies, and scandals that tested the limits of their influence and the resilience of their bond. From the very beginning, their union was scrutinized and condemned by outsiders, and as their power grew, so too did the intensity of the scrutiny. Townspeople, clergy, and neighboring families watched them closely, searching for weaknesses or missteps that could undermine their authority. Every decision the twins made, from household management to public appearances, was examined through a lens of suspicion and moral judgment. The twins, however, had learned from childhood to act with extraordinary coordination and foresight, which allowed them to navigate these pressures with remarkable precision. Internal challenges also arose within the household and the broader domain they governed. Even the most loyal servants, tenants, and allies occasionally questioned orders or resisted their decisions. The twins addressed these situations with a blend of psychological acuity and strategic subtlety, often resolving conflicts before they escalated. They understood human nature deeply, and their lifelong familiarity with each other allowed them to anticipate not only one another's reactions, but also the behaviors of those around them. The ability to act in perfect unison made dissent difficult to sustain, and those who challenged them often found themselves isolated or quietly removed from positions of influence. Despite these tactical successes, scandals inevitably surfaced. Rumors of their unconventional marriage spread far beyond their immediate community, drawing attention from journalists, visiting officials, and moralists who sought to condemn or sensationalize their lives. Gossip painted them alternately as brilliant strategists and as morally corrupt figures, creating a public image that oscillated between awe and revulsion. Some critics accused them of manipulating their household and the local economy to consolidate personal gain, while others claimed their influence had negative spiritual consequences, suggesting that the twins' union was unnatural and cursed. The twins, however, remained largely impervious to public censure, understanding that perception could be managed, and that their power derived as much from mystique as from tangible authority. The scandal and controversy surrounding their rule also generated opportunities. Outsiders' fear and fascination made many more compliant, curious, or deferential. Individuals and families who might have challenged the twins instead sought their favor, hoping to secure protection, patronage, or approval. The twins were adept at leveraging these dynamics, using the tension between intrigue and moral panic to reinforce their control. Every controversy became a tool. It attracted attention, solidified loyalty among allies, and subtly intimidated potential adversaries. Their dynasty thrived in part because they transformed public scrutiny into a mechanism for maintaining dominance. The twins' rule was further complicated by the need to manage succession and legacy. As their dynasty matured, they faced questions about inheritance, authority, and the continuation of their governance beyond their own lifetimes. Because their partnership was so unique and their union controversial, these matters were fraught with complexity. The twins approached succession planning strategically, educating trusted family members, allies, and household managers to uphold the structure and principles of their dynasty. Their meticulous approach ensured continuity while safeguarding the exclusivity of their control. In this way, the dynasty was not just a reflection of their current power, but a carefully cultivated institution designed to endure long after their personal presence diminished. Scandals within their broader social network occasionally threatened the twins' standing. Disputes between neighboring families, rivalries among local elites, or external legal challenges could have undermined their authority. Yet the twins' synchronized leadership style, strategic foresight, and intimate knowledge of human behavior allowed them to turn potential crises into opportunities to reinforce their dominance. Even when faced with public condemnation or moral outrage, the twins remained steadfast, projecting confidence and unity that reassured allies and deterred adversaries. Their ability to maintain equilibrium in the face of controversy was a testament to both their personal bond and their cultivated understanding of social dynamics. Ultimately, the twins' handling of challenges, scandals, and opposition was integral to the survival and growth of their dynasty. The controversies that surrounded them did not weaken their authority. Instead, they became instruments for consolidating power, reinforcing loyalty, and maintaining control over the narrative of their lives. Their success lay not only in their extraordinary bond and intelligence, but also in their capacity to convert public scrutiny, moral panic, and internal dissent into mechanisms of governance. The twins' ability to navigate scandal demonstrates the complexity and resilience of their rule. Every challenge tested the limits of their partnership, yet every controversy reinforced the extraordinary nature of their connection and the dynasty they had built. In the end, their legacy is defined not only by the audacity of their marriage or the structure of their self-governed dynasty, but also by the way they wielded controversy, scandal, and social pressure as tools to maintain their power, influence, and the enduring legend of the twins who defied convention to rule together. The lasting impact of the twins' story extended far beyond their immediate lifetime, shaping local history, folklore, and even perceptions of morality for generations. Their lives, marriage, and rule over their self-governed dynasty became a source of fascination, horror, and speculation for the surrounding communities and beyond. People spoke of them in hushed tones, blending fact and legend, until it was often impossible to separate truth from myth. Their unconventional union challenged societal norms so fundamentally that it forced the community to confront questions of morality, familial boundaries, and the limits of social tolerance. This legacy became a reference point in conversations about taboo, power, and the ways in which personal choices can ripple through a community long after the individuals involved have passed. The twins' influence persisted in the way future generations remembered the family and their territory. Local histories recounted their audacity, describing them alternately as cunning leaders, morally ambiguous figures, and symbols of a love so intense that it defied societal understanding. Their story was passed down orally by those who had witnessed their reign or heard accounts from family members and neighbors. These stories often included elements of exaggeration or supernatural embellishment, tales of their uncanny coordination, almost telepathic connection, and the near, mystical way they maintained authority over their household and territory. Over time, the twins became larger-than-life figures, their narrative evolving into a local legend that blurred the line between history and folklore. The twins' controversial marriage also had a broader social impact. In a period when strict social codes governed behavior, their union forced communities to confront uncomfortable questions about human relationships and autonomy. Religious leaders, legal authorities, and social commentators debated their story in public forums, using it as a cautionary tale or a point of philosophical discussion. In many ways, the twins became a mirror, reflecting society's anxieties and prejudices, as well as the fear of power that defies convention. Their story was cited in sermons, newspaper articles, and legal discussions as an example of what could occur when traditional moral boundaries were challenged, and it sparked dialogue that extended well beyond their immediate community. Beyond moral debate, their dynasty left tangible effects on the community's social and economic structures. Through their strategic governance and manipulation of local alliances, they had created a system of influence that endured even after their deaths. Some families maintained ties to their household, preserving knowledge of the twins' strategies, rituals, and rules. These practices influenced how land, labor, and local social hierarchies were managed for decades, embedding the twins' legacy in the fabric of the region. The dynasty they built became more than just a household or a territory. It became a symbol of the power of unity, strategy, and unyielding partnership. Folklore surrounding the twins also grew in the years following their deaths. accounts of their spirits, lingering authority, or uncanny presence in certain locations became part of local storytelling traditions. People reported seeing shadows moving in synchrony, hearing footsteps where no one walked, or encountering signs that seemed to signal the twins' continued influence. These stories, whether believed literally or regarded as symbolic, reinforced the twins' enduring presence in cultural memory. They became a reference point for cautionary tales, moral lessons, and the mystique of extraordinary human connection that defies convention. Historians and scholars who later examined the twins' lives have noted the broader implications of their story. Their ability to consolidate power through a unique bond, to navigate societal outrage, and to create a lasting dynasty offers insights into human psychology, leadership, and the ways personal relationships can shape history. The twins' story challenges assumptions about normative social behavior and demonstrates that extraordinary bonds, even when controversial, can produce profound social, political, and cultural effects. Their legacy is therefore not only a sensational tale of scandal, but also a case study in strategy, influence, and the enduring power of human connection. Even in modern times, the tale of the twins continues to captivate. Researchers, writers, and enthusiasts revisit their story, examining the interplay of love, loyalty, and power that defined their lives. Discussions about the twins often extend into broader debates about ethics, family, and the limits of societal judgment. In doing so, their narrative transcends the historical moment in which they lived, remaining relevant as a provocative example of how human relationships can challenge conventions and shape communities for generations. Ultimately, the lasting impact of the twins' story lies in its ability to endure as both history and legend. It is remembered not only for the scandalous nature of their marriage, but also for the dynasty they built, the societal boundaries they challenged, and the extraordinary unity that allowed them to wield power in ways few could comprehend. Their lives continue to serve as a touchstone for discussions about morality, strategy, and the ways in which human connection can transcend societal limitations. Even over a century later, the twins' story resonates as a testament to the extraordinary consequences of loyalty, ambition, and the courage to live according to one's